Okay, so it is David's time to shine. David works at the Brookings Institute, and he's going to talk about R. That's right. We tried to get R set up on my computer, but I did it at 5:30, and Ubuntu doesn't work the same. And it took me, I didn't have enough time to figure out how to compile why GeoDC wouldn't compile. So with that, we're going to let David do his thing. Do you want me to do slides for you? Awesome. All right, clap for Dave.
Thanks, everybody. As Max said, my name is David Harshbarger. I work at the Brookings Institution in the Metropolitan Policy Program. Max, do you have it?
I think you just click next. Oh, do you need a USB?
Yeah, I'm trying to get. All right, I got it. Okay. So, yes, so I was just going to talk a little bit about. So obviously, I'm coming from the research world more than like the developer side of things, which I feel like most people might be in here on that side. But just to get a sense for where people are at, I get a show of hands. Who has ever opened RStudio? Okay. All right. Nice. Okay. And for another show of hands, who is familiar with OpenStreetMap? That's probably a stupid question. Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. All right. So I had 2 parts to this presentation. Let me check. Yeah, slides work. Okay. So I had kind of 2 parts to this. As Max said, GeoDC didn't compile. Whatever. Nature ignores a live demo. It doesn't matter. Really, it's my fault. But I can still go through just kind of like the nuts and bolts of how R can be used for spatial data, because it's actually really kind of nice and powerful. And it's not all a waste, because later on Sarah's going to talk about another R tool, so it might kind of lead into that. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and get started. Just going to talk about the way that R kind of like deals with spatial data. For a final show of hands, who's familiar with R data frames? Okay, so that's most of the people that know RStudio. It's just like the basic way of storing rectangular data. So you have like, you have like if you have 50 states, for example, maybe you have 50 rows, and each of them have like a name and like the area, something like that. And then also get a geometry column. So what's nice about this is that you get all of your like attribute data for your analysis alongside your geometry data for like the geoprocessing side of things. This thing's kind of going out, so anybody feel free to like, if you need clarification, ask. So anyway, this is what it kind of looks like whenever you're using an SF package, which is, or an SF object, which is how you store spatial data. It comes from this package SF. It's kind of new. Spatial data in R is always kind of evolving, but it's really exciting. It's pretty useful at this point already. And as you can see, this is just like a rectangular data set. You would see this in Excel or something. You got like a unique identifier, the name of some city. These are all in Holland. Like a rough population estimate. And then this is where the magic happens. Geometry columns, what makes it like spatial data, right? So that's the cool part. Okay, this is kind of cut off, but what this actually says is what actions can we take with spatial data in R. The key point with this is that these things are data frames. It's just rectangular data. So anything that you would normally have for research purposes in a normal data frame, you could do that. You wouldn't even you could ignore the spatial aspect of it if you wanted, but then when you do want it, it's there for you, which is really convenient. And then you can also use the spatial stuff for like geoprocessing. Okay, I said final, but I'm going to do one more. Just it's kind of fun, actually. As a show of hands, who uses Post Gis? It's like 10. Okay, so you guys will recognize a lot of the functionality of this package because it uses this ST underscore kind of syntax. But the kinds of things that you can do are the same as with like ArcMap or with QGIS or any of that stuff. There's tons of stuff. This is just a few, but they all start with ST underscore. It's really easy to remember. Basically, my point here is that it's a really nice package. You can load in spatial data and then analyze it either spatially or not if you don't really need it, just as you normally would. And then you can like write it out to a shapefile that anybody who's not an R user can use in whatever they use. And then this is the part where it's a total lie, because I was going to show you some code, but I'm not. I can't. So the presentation is now done. However, it's not all for naught because Sarah's going to go present on SF. So if you guys want to Google something called map view, that's what this like spinning thing is here. This is really cool for like exploring spatial data. You can throw an OSM base map onto like a points, like a polygon shapefile, like sort of know where things are, which is really important for research to make sure that stuff isn't, you know, accidentally across in a different hemisphere, which happened to me. So anyway, that's it for me. I think I kept it in a tight 5, but I'm looking forward to the next one, which is Sarah. So. I guess I have a question, right?
Are there questions for
Yeah,
David?
I'll take a question. If there are any. If not, then fine. All right, cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it only in our studio?
SF is only in RStudio. This map view thing is an RStudio wrapper for Leaflet. So if you're familiar with Leaflet, it's very similar to that. SF, I guess that's a good question. It stands for simple features. So if anybody's familiar with that, that's what it is. It implements a simple features standard into R. So for vector data, it's just like the best way to do that. So yeah.
How do you feel about the R bridge and linking it to Art Pro?
I've never used the R bridge, but I have such like strong bias against ArcMap that I just try to not use it at all. That's a personal opinion, so it's not a value judgment on
Well, you
you.
can link it on QGIS too.
I don't use QGIS. I have ArcMap. I have an ArcMap license at work. I just hate. Honestly, I hate using it. But that's just me.
Art
So.
Pro, not map.
Oh well, honestly, that's beyond me. So.
Either way, good stuff, good stuff.
All right. Well, thank you. All right.
Arbridge uses SP objects instead of SF.
So I'm never going to use it, but thank you. That's good to know.
All right. Great job, David.